Hello, YouTube. We are back for another exciting episode of, what am I calling this?
Q&A with Jason Crotton.
Q&A. If anyone is interested in having a question answered, then throw it into the chat and I'll see what I can do as the chat gets started and sends it out to all the people in the webosphere. So if you're joining me here, throw your name in the chat, say hello. And if we got questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Let's see what's been going on. It's been an interesting month. Jot Deep, I'm doing well. How are you doing? Good to see you here. November was a little bit quiet on YouTube, but it's been working on some other things internally, some strategy changes, working on some business development stuff. So hasn't been a lot of new production as far as videos, but you know what, that happens, and it's going to be changing. We're going to be having some stuff coming real soon. So Jot Deep, I'm glad you watched. That's great. If you're joining me here, just answering questions, came on to see what is going on. I know it's been at least a couple weeks since I've done this. We also are live on TikTok. Is that correct? We've got that going over here, but I'm looking into the YouTube camera. We'll see how that goes. So hello, TikTok. It's so weird to talk to multiple cameras at once, but I'll do my best. And so, yeah, so it's been some interesting things.
Thank you for what you do.
Yeah. That was on TikTok. So TikTok comments coming in. Yeah, I just came on to answer questions. I don't necessarily even have anything. BYB, what advice do you have for a first-time young dad? What steps do you recommend? Well, if you've watched some of my material, a lot of the things that I recommend are I'd call them non-physical or non-tactical. Instead, they're more mental and emotional things. So I've got a couple videos on this, and obviously it's a real important thing. You know, I think a lot of dads, when you're a first-time dad, and whether you're young or not, but you worry about a lot of the things of like, am I going to be able to do this? You know, am I going to be able to handle the baby and talk with, or, burp the baby and change the baby's diapers and feed the baby? And I consider these sort of all the tactical things. And, you become a expert after doing these things, just a couple of times. So it doesn't really require a tremendous amount of thought and such. It's like, when you the first couple of times you're trying to do a diaper, you fumble, and then, once you get it, you're an expert. I like to focus a little bit more on the emotional, mental things, because those, for me at least, were much more challenging. And that is, the transition of maybe if you're in a relationship, and if you're married or you have a partner, that the dynamics there change. Also for you, as far as like your stress and being responsible for other people. So those are the kinds of tips that I like to provide. And so one of the things is that, you're going to be okay, but expect some change, expect some growth, expect to be challenged. And those are a lot of the things that I think are important. Understanding patience. You have to practice patience, being grateful for what you do have rather than thinking about what it is that you don't have. And then probably, one of the biggest is being empathetic towards both your child and the child's mother. And so if you're not familiar with that, being empathetic is putting yourself in the other person's shoes or in the other person's position and looking at the situation from their perspective. So as an example, your baby is, a month old, and, kind of looking at the situation from your baby's perspective, and they're crying and you're getting a little bit annoyed by it, or, you're getting upset, realize that the baby is trying to communicate. And when you put yourself in the position of the other, of the baby or of your spouse, you have a tendency to handle things quite differently. And that's been really, really helpful for me. So did we get something on there on TikTok? Is that what was going on over there?
No question.
Oh, okay. So Jason, what would your advice be with the in-laws? Our 1.5-year-old gets minimal TV time, only when eating, but yet my in-laws, I feel like, overload my child with TV constantly. My wife says it isn't too much of a big deal, but is it really? We hardly stay over my in-laws so I can see her side, but I'm just worried overall. Yeah. So Alex, thank you for the question. I think when it comes to that, there's kind of a different, couple different philosophies. So one of it is, if your in-laws are watching your children, and in a sense, one, because you want them to have a good relationship with your in-laws, but the other is maybe they're giving you a break. You got to, my thought would be is that you have to have a little bit of leeway. You can explain, not you, but your spouse, because it's her parents, you don't get involved. But if she feels strongly, which it doesn't sound like she does, but she could, say, hey, listen, we'd just like to minimize TV. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a half hour, whatever it is. I'll go to the bottom line. The bottom line is it's not that big of a deal. But it might feel like that. And sometimes it feels like that because the parents might give them more sugar. The parents might give them something else. My mom explained, and my mom was kind of like the godmother of children. I mean, she knew how to raise everything and she was wonderful. And she said, as a grandma, she said, hey, just because she used to feed them things that I wouldn't feed them. And she said, if they have any really good memories that, they got ice cream at grandma's house or they got to watch movies at grandma's house, just let them have that memory. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And so I always kind of kept that in mind as my mom then passed away, and that my children can have some kind of memories that, is positive. So, I don't think a little bit of extra TV time is going to harm them that much. It's one thing if your in-laws take care of them weekly on multiple days and they're having too much. But I think you might have to back off a little bit. Maybe just, your wife could always try to provide some instruction and say, hey, listen, we want to limit them to an hour a day or whatever. But quite frankly, if you're not there, they're going to probably do what they want to do. And they think that they raised, a good person who you ended up marrying. They probably won't listen. Most in-laws don't. So I think it just might not be a battle that's worth battling. That would be my assessment, but I'm not sure. So Chris, thank you for your videos. Do you have any advice for introducing a new puppy to a toddler? So it's funny, we now have a dog, but we didn't when our children were born. But somebody did give me some advice because we had thought about getting a puppy. And so I'll give you that, and for what it's worth. And one of the things is, you obviously have to get a type of dog that's very friendly and very nice, but I think you have to also teach the toddler to be very nice. And so that's soft touch. Everything is about soft and, touching them very softly. That's always a problem. Sometimes, you had said introducing a puppy to a toddler. Usually it's a puppy introducing the baby to the puppy, which is like getting them some sense of the baby and like maybe some blankets that actually have the smell of the baby so they get used to it. I think you could do it on a limited basis, though. I'm trying to think of how I would do that and kind of limiting the exposure. The biggest thing is that the toddler is nice, because toddlers have a tendency to, without even knowing it, they're not doing it intentionally, they might hit and grab and squeeze and stuff. So you just want to make sure that everything is like soft and showing them how to touch and doing things very easily. That's probably the best I can say there. Yeah, Chris is saying the third dog she's run into, she understands the gentle aspect, but she doesn't understand that the puppy doesn't understand much. Yeah, you're just going to have to explain that, the dog doesn't understand. And, eventually as she gets a little bit older, she'll get used to that. But I don't know that there's much I don't know that there's much you can, maybe there's some books on it or maybe a video on it that talks about it, but I'm not an expert in that area. Aldrich, how would you recommend setting boundaries with your own parents? I just had my firstborn recently, and my mother has a bit of an obsessive attachment to my son. I love my mother, but need the space. I would say just that. I think you have a conversation outside of the time when, when they're watching your child or taking care of the child or being involved. What I would do is think of a sandwich. This is like a communication technique. Is you say something really positive, and then you say something that's in between, and then you say something positive again. So in other words, you might say, listen, to your mom, say, I appreciate so much how wonderful you are, with my son. You're very loving, you give him really good attention, and I really appreciate that. Sometimes I feel like, and then you have to come up with it. But sometimes I feel like maybe that there's, or you could even put on yourself, like sometimes I feel a little jealous. You could put it on yourself, or, sometimes I feel like maybe you give them too much attention. And how do you think, and then you could even ask the question, how would it be best for me to communicate that to you, and in what way? Now, your mother might be like, forget it. You don't, do that. So you don't want to get in an argument, but I mean, you kind of have to know your mom. And if your mom's respectful about it, she'll do that. But most parents or grandparents aren't. Most in-laws are not. They're mostly not that respectful of that. So, especially if you're having the issues with them, very rarely are they like, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'll back off. They just don't do that because they think that they're correct. So you kind of have to be creative a little bit, maybe in the way that you approach it. And it's more of like, I said, being very positive about it. I think you have to, on the other side, you might have to analyze yourself and say, what is it about it that you're getting, her obsessive attachment? What is it that bothers you? Do you feel like you didn't get the attention? Do you feel like, are you jealous? Are you feeling like she wasn't there for you? Like there's something that might come up that, you might be feeling a certain way because of something. And so you might have to like investigate that a little bit because, there's one thing to have an attachment, like the grandparents like really cares about them and wants to take care of them and loves them. And that's wonderful to have. Think of the alternative of like a grandparent not wanting to be around their child. But sometimes it can be, maybe it's that you want to spend time with the child or, like I said, like you're just not getting the amount of time, or that sometimes it feels like maybe the child has a better bond with the grandparent than they do with you. And so I think you might want to analyze that, kind of take a look at it, and then kind of maybe go from there, and that might help. Caleb, my 15-month-old son, won't sleep through the night. What else can my wife and I try? We're feeling hopeless. So Caleb, what I would ask is your son currently taking naps? If your son is taking naps, I'd probably say cut the nap. And then I have a video on this. And one of the big things is creating routine. So let's say you want your child to I would also go to sleep earlier. So maybe you want your child to go to bed by 7:30. You work backwards. You start the descent, as we would call it in our house, at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is, maybe you finish dinner. You then go and take a bath. You then have, you read together. You then have some other activity or, whatever. Make sure TV's not part of it late at night. But yeah, I would check out the video because I don't know what it is that you are doing. So it's kind of hard to, answer that in a short question. But that's what I would suggest. And here's the thing too, is like, kids sometimes just have problems sleeping, but usually there are things that you can do. You can reduce the naps. Sometimes it's making them or having them go to sleep earlier, believe it or not, instead of going later, have them sleep earlier. Do an activity and tire them out. Maybe there's an afternoon activity where, you have some rough play or some activity like we're playing with the ball or, running around in the playground. Like if they're sitting around in the afternoon, there's not much energy expended. And so that could be, part of it too. Or they're watching TV all afternoon and then it's, or playing with an iPad and then they eat dinner. And of course they're not going to go to sleep. They haven't really gotten much energy out. So I think you might want to consider something like that. Well, Patrick, glad you're here. I'm going to be a first-time dad, and any advice that you have will be very helpful. I've got lots of advice. That's why I'm here. But anything specific, if you've got specific questions, I'd love to answer them. Be empathetic means consider your spouse or you're the child's mother and what she might be going through. For yourself, expect that your life is going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. In the beginning, it's probably going to be a little bit difficult, but that's okay. Like, you'll make it through. There's all kinds of things that we can talk about. But yeah, I don't know. There's trying to think. There's so many on the plate. Don't buy stuff. Wait until you really need something. I think people waste a lot of money on buying things. You don't need to baby proof your house until the baby walks. So don't worry about baby proofing, or baby crawls. You don't have to worry about that. Get things that, make her more comfortable, and things that you might need rather than things that you might want. That's another one. If people are asked how they can help, tell them how they can help. Get help. That's always good. Go on dates. Make a date night if you can. And if you don't have the budget for it, just find and trade with somebody else or a family member where you guys can just go for a walk. Let's see. Oh, there's some questions coming in here. So Brian, my 6-year-old currently says a lot, "I don't like you," and I know he doesn't mean it, but it hurts me so emotionally. How can I get past this? Thank you for it. So Brian, here's the thing. You are correct that he may mean it in the sense he's saying it. He doesn't understand what it means and the ramifications of it. So I think you have to emotionally detach yourself from that. And instead, what sometimes that means is, I don't like what you're doing, or I don't like this situation, rather than I don't like you. So, sometimes that can happen where, he knows that if he's playing, you're the one who's going to end the playtime. So yeah, I don't like you. I wouldn't like you either, in that sort of, surface sense. He really doesn't understand it. And so you've got to just separate yourself from it. Don't take it personally. You can't take it personally, else, you'll drive yourself crazy. And the other thing too is to kind of, if you can, is time it and understand why or when he's saying it. So like I said, if it's when, he doesn't get what he wants, or, there's probably something that is triggering it. And so that is going to, cause him to say something. The other thing is, at 6, depending on his communication, you can begin to show him and talk with him about how he can communicate to you. So, at 6 years old, and saying like, "I don't like you," and you find out that it really means like, "I don't like you taking me away from me playing," you can help him communicate that. And so that's something, do it in not of the heat of the moment. Do it like when he's, when you're playful, and talk to him about those kinds of things. And I think you'll, I think he will benefit from it, and I think you will too. And Brian, you followed up with, do you offer any one-on-one therapy? I don't currently offer that per se, but if you're a member, the member to Dad University, you can go to the website, click on membership. I do have member-only chats that we can do and we can set up. And so that does happen, where we can do like a group session for that. So, and those are coming soon. So I would say that's one way to do it. So Miguel, one of the things I struggle with is letting my daughter, who is 2, watching too much TV. It gets dark super early and it's really cold, so I don't know what to do with her. Playing toys gets so boring. Does playing toys get boring for her or boring for you? So that's what I would say is, it gets boring for you. So you got to figure out some things that you like then. I mean, just off the top of my head, you could build an obstacle course. She's 2. You could build an obstacle course. You could play a game like a cleaning game. You could I Spy. We played that all the time, where you like try to find different things around the room that you're looking at. There's all kinds of, I mean, if you Google, games with toddlers or games, with 2-year-olds, there's a lot of different games you can play. But yeah, I mean, I think TV isn't the best scenario, but I understand, because if you've got a lot of time, if, depending on where you live, although it is cold, if you bundled up and just went outside, or maybe if you have a backyard, or if you have somewhere where you could go that's safe, you can get a flashlight. Sometimes that's kind of fun, especially if it's just in a close by, or even if like you have a garage or you have something, it's like you go in the dark and then you get a flashlight and you go for a walk. Like little kids love that kind of stuff. My kids loved it. I mean, going outside with a flashlight and like exploring, as long as we stayed close, to the house and we're with them, they loved it. So yeah, we built tons of obstacle courses. I'm trying to think dark wise, you can look at stars if you see stars and try to look up. But all kinds of coloring projects and games are, the other thing too, and I think this is, a lot of parents need to hear this. Just because you are there, I mean, it's just like TV, you don't want to like put the kid in front of the TV. But if you're there for 4 hours, you don't have to be interacting with the child for 4 hours playing the game with them. I mean, that's wonderful if you can do that. Praise to you, and that's great. But also, just like you're realizing, it's like, you need breaks too. So maybe it's like you play for a half hour, with your child, and then you take a 10-minute break and, you go do something, or you get something to eat, or you do, like, it's okay. You have to give yourself the permission. Like, you don't have to sit there for 4 hours with your child and entertain them. Part of it is giving them toys and allowing them to do something so that you are not entertaining them. They have to be able to, be with themselves. And I think that that's a lot of pressure that parents put on themselves, is like, as if, hey, I don't have anything to do, so I have to spend that time with my child. That's great if you really enjoy it and you really have exciting things to do. But at the same time, you also want to be engaged with the child. And if you're not, and you're just kind of like there and you're kind of hurrying that, the time will pass, then that's not very good for the child either. So I think doing it in smaller chunks might be good for you, where you play a game and then you say, okay, we're going to play a game together, and then you're going to play a game by yourself, or, whatever. And if, the child needs to get used to being able to do that too, or, there are some games where the child, or building blocks or dolls, or, whatever the child is into, that they can play by themselves. That's okay. It's okay for them to be able to entertain themselves. Jesse, my fiance is having the absolute worst morning sickness starting our 9th week. I feel helpless. Any suggestions on things I can do to feel less helpless? Thanks. I would ask her. Everybody is different. Certainly like the foods and stuff. I'm not an expert at morning sickness or pregnancy. I would ask her that and say, hey, listen, I really want to help you. What are the things that I can do to help you? And if she says nothing, say, well, if there was something, what could I help you with? That's a good way to answer it, because a lot of women will say that. Oh, no, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about it. Don't, just go ahead and keep pressing. Jerry, how do you balance your marriage with your wife when you have an infant and a 1-year-old toddler? lately we've been overwhelmed with the kids and it feels like we don't have time for each other. That is very, very common and very true. It ends up coming down to prioritization. And, I think if I look back, one of the things I would have probably done better is to prioritize that time. And sometimes, it's really hard. You're tired. But, even if it is just, the two of you talking and connecting, or, going out on a date is the best scenario, but financially that may not be for everybody, or even logistically. If there's a family nearby or friends or something where you can trade, that sometimes works, where it's like, hey, this weekend, we'll watch the children on this time and then you watch the children on that time. But you have to prioritize and make the time for each other. It's a hard one. It is definitely a hard one. I do have there's a course inside our membership, and it's about the relationship, and it talks a lot about that stuff of, the things that you can do to, to kind of foster that relationship. But, here's the reality. And this is just the way that it is that, having an infant and a 1-year-old is really hard. It just is. And it's going to be hard probably for 2 to 3 years, if not more. And so the way to combat that is, you've got to prioritize. And that's why I said, if you and your wife are saying, hey, we really need to make time for each other, well, then you got to make the time. There's no other way to do it. So you have to hire a babysitter. You have to, make time when the kids go to sleep, or find times when you can connect or talk, or you just got to do it. There's not really secrets. I mean, there are, some suggestions, but, so Sergio, congrats. You just found out you're going to be a dad last Saturday. Congrats. Welcome to the club. Expecting in July. That's great. Question for some people here. Are any of you members? So what I've put some polls out on, or I take that back. Did anyone even know that I have a membership? I did a poll on YouTube on the community tab, and 38% of the respondents, 38% of the people responding, didn't even know I offer a membership, which is courses and videos and live chats and a support forum and such. So I was just curious if you guys on here were even aware of that, because I do need to make some more videos where I'm actually talking about it. I don't plug it all the time, but it is something. So I'm just curious if that's the same here, or the people that are here are aware of it, because it is something that I'm trying to get more awareness of. When I found out that I posted, and 38% of the people, I think there's 200 people voted or something. I mean, that's a large amount of people that are on my channel that didn't know. So Patrick, the membership is pay what feels good. So the way that I've structured it is you get to choose the monthly amount that you want to pay. And that's how we've structured it. So I think now, there's as high as $149 a month, as down low to $3 a month. So for even as low as $3 a month, you get access to all of my courses, all of my videos, etc. A dad boxes. No, but you do, Sergio, you do get 20% off the merchandise. So if you do decide to buy a shirt, there's a hat back here. Members do get 20% off merchandise. So that's quite a good deal. And just in time for the holidays. What is a dad box? If they're pretty cool, let me know, and maybe I will sell them. But yeah, the membership. And so part of that is just making more videos that people are aware. A lot of people aren't aware of the membership and what it offers. And for some people, they like access to the courses. Other people, they're just supporting the channel and supporting what we're doing here. Because if you know, the way to make revenue from that is either the membership. YouTube, pays a little. I don't have a huge following. And so, there's a lot of expenses. I have a full-time videographer. We have an office. We've got all this stuff. We put out a tremendous amount of content. And so that all costs a lot. And so that's what is helpful to keep this going is the memberships and the, and the ads on people are clicking on ads and such within YouTube. And then also TikTok, because I have TikTok going as well. TT, when do things return to normal with the wife after the baby's born? Depends what you feel is normal. Normal, you'll have to define that. If you're talking about how much attention you get or intimacy or something, every person is different. Normal as far as like paying attention to each other, it doesn't go back to normal. It's just there's a new normal. So I think you have to define that and maybe define your new normal and also have a conversation with your wife about what that means, and making sure that she too, making sure that she is getting what she needs at the moment and whatever that is. So, have fun, Sergio. Miguel, any tips on how I could build a strong sense of unity and togetherness with my wife and 2 kids, making sure that there's an unbreakable bond? Yeah, I think having family routines, family traditions are a great way to do that. And so, that could be everything from the holidays to other celebrations and birthdays to, as detailed as having a weekly meeting or having a weekly fun day, or, we've done things where we've had game nights, eating dinner together. I should have started there. Having a meal together is probably one of the best ways to do it, and having continuous meals together. Now, what I will say is that becomes increasingly difficult as the kids get older. So my kids are 14 and 12, involved in all kinds of activities. So for us now, in which the dinner meal has been really important throughout their entire childhood, has now been difficult other than maybe a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because during the week, the schedules are all over the place. Whereas literally from, 6 to 8, one's doing something else. And then from 5 to 7, the other one's doing something else. And then I'm doing, so it becomes increasingly difficult. So the options there are either to alter your schedules so that you all can meet together, or you find something different. So a family meal when they're that age is good. And make traditions. Saturday mornings we go for donuts, or not donuts. Maybe you go for like a bagel or something a little bit more healthy. Or, you go for a juice or something, or you go for a bike ride, or on Wednesday nights, you play a game together, or on Monday nights, you have a family meeting in which you talk about, the things that are happening for the week. Like, there's a lot of different ways where you're doing things cohesively together to create that really special bond. And the best way to do that is to spend time together, all together. And making sure that, everybody has their say and everyone feels like they have input and everyone can enjoy it. You're not always doing things that you want to do. You're not always doing things that your wife wants to do, nor your 2-year-old, nor the 7-year-old. So that's what I'd say. Any other questions? It's been a good live. I appreciate everybody coming on here. I'll take any final questions before I've got some other things I got to get done. But do want to say, check out the membership if you haven't already. If you do have suggestions for videos, throw them in the chats, throw them in the comments. I'm always looking for that. And then also TikTok. Hello. Want to say, thank you to the people on TikTok. Is there any other things that are happening on TikTok?
Just now, hey man, my girl's
Cool.
6 months pregnant, and I'm going to be a girl dad. Any tips? Love the vids.
Yeah. So for a girl dad, the tips are, especially when they're younger, there is no difference really. We other than wiping from front to back, That's really the only difference in being a girl dad. We treated or tried to treat both our baby boy and baby girl at the time in the same way. And that means, and this is done in studies where dads typically are more gentle, more verbal with girls versus with boys, they're more physical and rough and such. And the truth is that all babies get value from that. So don't think of it as like, she's a little girl or he's a little boy. Just do everything that you would do in either case. And I think that's the best way to go. As they get older, they have different interests, then things kind of change a little bit, but, allow them to explore whatever it is that they want to explore. And you'll be fine. You'll be good. Right on. So for everybody, thank you so much for being part of the community. I want to thank you. I will definitely come back on, trying to make this regular. We just don't know when the best time to do that and fitting that into the schedule. So just want to say thank you to everybody. Hope you guys have an excellent night or day, depending on where you're joining us. I saw some people from overseas, I think. And we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye.